Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs program. I'm Jerry Williams. Well, it's on the National Register of Historic Places. It is also home to America's oldest public rose garden. What am I talking about? Beautiful Elizabeth Park, located in West Hartford, Connecticut. I was taking a cruise on my electric skateboard recently at the park, and that's where I met Dave Wilson at the Visiting Center. And he was very informative about the park. Hear what Dave had to say, happening now on the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs. As Mr. Rogers used to always so famously say, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Yes, it is. I am out and about once again in the community, beautiful Elizabeth Park, and I am speaking with David Wilson. How you doing, David?
Hey, Jerry. Pretty good today.
I've passed this building many times, and I needed to go and use the bathroom. I said, I might as well go in, and here you are. You can tell me something about the park. I understand you've been working here a long time. You know, you've worn many hats, worked different positions. What can you tell me about beautiful Elizabeth Park?
First of all, about the building, it's the new visitor center. So that's only been open about 4 years. It's been here since the 1930s, and it's an old brownstone building. And it used to be full of restrooms that were never open. The city couldn't afford to repair it or clean it or whatever. Finally, the Elizabeth Park Conservancy got a grant to fully renovate this into a beautiful visitor center, gift shop, and, as you may already know, beautiful public restrooms are still here and available to everybody in the park. So Elizabeth Park was donated by a wealthy man named Charles Pond, and his only request was that it be named after his beloved wife, Elizabeth, who loved flowers and gardens. So he also asked that it be a horticultural garden. And that's why we have the world-famous rose garden. It's 1.2 acres. It's the third largest municipally owned rose garden in the country. And we have a variety of other horticultural gardens, too.
This is a beautiful building. They did a marvelous job renovating it. It's a visiting center / looks like gift shop.
Yes. We have a handful of local handmade artists, and the rest of things here are curated by Stephanie Webb. She does a lovely job of gift buying, and it's just a nice eclectic bunch of work. But we do have a jeweler, Olivia Engel. We have an illustrator, Amanda Cerveski, and I am the potter who has their ceramic arts here.
Yes, I see you have nice work over here. You're a potter.
Yes. I'm more of a ceramic artist. I said potter for many years, but people often think of traditional pottery when you use the word pottery. So I go with ceramic artist because, as you can see, everything's very whimsical, embellished. There's a lot of ornate and painting and various other techniques going on with my pottery. I have a no boring bowl policy, so I cannot make anything simple.
So what's the backstory of you getting into ceramic artistry?
Yeah, well, funny you should ask. So for years, I used to hang out in the park in the 90s, and then in June of 99, the Pond House opened in Elizabeth Park, which is our wonderful little cafe and banquet facility. I was one of the first wait staff at the Pond House in June of 1999. Became a manager there, a banquet manager, and then I became a part-time clerk for the Friends of Elizabeth Park. Now, the Friends of Elizabeth Park was a nonprofit organization that saved the Rose Garden from being bulldozed in 1977 because the city could not afford to keep it up. I was one of the first little staff people, sort of like what we're doing here at the Visitor Center, but over at the old cottage there where there are offices now. Eventually, I became the first executive director, salaried position for the Friends of Elizabeth Park, and I was design manager for the Pond House, so I wore two hats in the park, and I was going back and forth from building to building. I could finally afford to take a pottery class, which I'd wanted to do since I was in high school. I fell in love. As much as I enjoyed the park and everything I was doing here, all I wanted to do was make pottery. And I was fortunate enough to, have a spouse that was very supportive of that. And in 2011, I left Elizabeth Park. And since then, they became the Elizabeth Park Conservancy, no longer the Friends of Elizabeth Park. And I went on a 12-year journey of making pottery full time.
If you're just joining us, I am with David Wilson. You can catch Dave at the Visiting Center. He's just kind of making his way around, working various positions at Elizabeth Park, and has been for many years. How many hats have you worn over the years, man?
Well, a lot, really. I was an SNET, that's Southern New England Telephone 411 operator. So, do you know what 411 was?
I remember.
Yeah, David, what city, please? So that was like over 1,000 calls a day. I've been a painter, a wall finish artist. I started as a silk screen printer in high school, and I did that into my early 20s. It doesn't pay well. I don't recommend it. I always tell young people, if you want to be an artist, marry somebody who is not an artist. I mean, if you want to live comfortably. Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. So it looks like I've come across the right person to talk about this wonderful and beautiful park.
Beautiful park. We have, like I said, the historic rose garden, and we have a perennial garden, an annual garden, rock shade garden, beautiful pond, historic bridge, lots of pastoral walkways. A lot of people think that this is a Frederick Law Olmsted Park, which is the guy who designed Central Park in New York. Even though he was consulted with many letters and back and forth about how they should design this park, he did not actually design this park. Theodore Wirth designed Elizabeth Park. And it was part of this huge movement. All those wealthy guys in Hartford, Colt, Goodwin, Bushnell, they were all encouraged to donate their properties because the city of Hartford was developing so quickly, and there was no place for inner city people to go to take refuge from, the concrete and all of that and the noise. So that's why we have all these beautiful parks in Hartford, because of very generous, wealthy people.
It's interesting. One of the things you mentioned, that you were in management over at the Pond House Cafe. Before I walked in here, I was in my car looking at the menu. I've never eaten at the Pond House Cafe, so as a former manager, what do you recommend I try for lunch at the Pond House Cafe?
Jerry, this is a little embarrassing, but I've only been back to the park for, I think I met you about 6 weeks ago or so. That's when I just returned to the park, and I actually haven't been to the Pond House since I've been back. I have not had a chance to get over to the Pond House, but everybody loves the Pond House. People come in here after they've had lunch, and they just said, oh, I've had a wonderful lunch at the Pond House. I don't know what's on the menu anymore. I can tell you what in the archives, I loved their tarragon chicken wrap and Mrs. Astor's apple walnut salad, but I don't know what they're serving right now. I'm sure they still have their famous vegetarian chili, but maybe not. Who knows? Things change, right? So
I did come across the vegetarian chili on the menu before I came to see you, because I was literally perusing.
Outstanding. And, the owner of the Pond House, have a good day, Louis Lista, he actually is the original owner. And before he opened that, he had the Reader's Feast on Farmington Avenue. Everybody in the West End really enjoyed this cafe bookstore. And he had that vegetarian chili way back then. It might be from the Moosewood cookbook. That's a famous vegetarian cookbook from the 70s. Yeah.
From beautiful Elizabeth Park in West Hartford, I'm Jerry Williams. He's David Wilson. Hey, man, God bless you. And this is a wonderful place. And I'm glad it's here. I'm glad you're back. Yeah. It's like you're grandfathered in, man. No matter if you take off, you always seem to find your way back.
Thanks for helping me refresh my history of Elizabeth Park. I surprised myself talking to you, I do remember all this. Yeah, and it's so nice to have you in the park today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, folks. The backstory is that I ride an electric skateboard, and Elizabeth Park is it's a great track for board riding or roller blading or walking or jogging, whatever. 6 weeks ago, I guess he's estimated, I needed to use the public restroom. So I said, I'm going to walk into this building. I've never seen the inside after seeing it, 100 times. And I walked in, and that's when I met David, and we began to talk, and he told me about all the things that he's done over the years in connection with Elizabeth Park. I said, you know what, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to talk to you, and here we are today.
Pleasure meeting you, Jerry, really. I'm impressed with the electric skateboard thing. Jerry's not a spring chicken. I'm impressed. I mean, you look good, but he's not that young, Hi there.
Thanks, David.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
And you just heard my conversation with Dave Wilson that took place at the Visiting Center at Elizabeth Park recently. There will also be an Elizabeth Park history tour happening September 11th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. If you would like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049. I'm Jerry Williams for the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs.